We're wasting precious time. Come on to the theater.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Boyos Discuss, the podcast where we pick a topic and then shoot the shit about it for a while. This week we're covering 1965's The Sound of Music. But before we get into that, I'm Matthew, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Ben and Other Ben. Have you been, Boyos?
Been good.
I'm real hungover.
Oh, yeah, I know that too.
So a little bit of facts about this movie. It's based on the 1959 stage musical by Rodgers and Hammerstein. So they did Oklahoma, King and I, South Pacific. Just a fucking, crazy track record. They're
like the Gilbert and Sullivan of American musicals.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why, even if you don't really know theater, you've heard of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's actually adapted, though, from a story from the 1949 memoir of Maria von Trapp. And it's the story of the Von Trapp family singers, which, not a great title. And I was reading some, pre-production stuff. And, initially she was, adamant that the movie had to be called that. And then eventually they were like, no.
Good call.
That's not going to work.
Although, the author's name, bit of a spoiler for it. How are you going to have a will they, won't they relationship and she has the man's last name?
Maria von Trapp's story of will they, won't they with Mr. Von Trapp.
So this it was directed by Robert Wise, who also directed The Day the Earth Stood Still, West Side Story, which I think came out a decade before, and it's that pedigree of a musical. And then also weirdly Star Trek the Motion Picture.
It's random, but with the way some of the shots carry in these movies, from West Side Story to Sound of Music to Star Trek, there's really long, lingering, incredibly vast shots in Star Trek, and I'm like, you know what? I could see that, I suppose. It's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. He also was the editor for Citizen Kane. So some, casting stuff. Julie Andrews was not the first choice for Maria until Wise saw early footage of her on Mary Poppins. Georg, some considerations for his actor were Bing Crosby, Yul Brynner, who was he was the king in The King and I for decades.
He was Pharaoh from the Ten Commandments.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, eventually
Is he not Siamese?
No, not at all.
I think he's actually Egyptian. I'm not 100% sure on that, but yeah, he's kind of a big deal for a minority in Hollywood. Wow.
But yeah, eventually he sort of stopped having he couldn't do theater anymore because he he smoked a lot, and eventually it's you can't.
Yeah, that'll do
sing, And then Sean Connery was another consideration for the captain, and it's
I'm very glad they steered away from that, but I really want to see this cursed Sound of Music production where Sean Connery does his best German accent.
Can Sean Connery sing?
I doubt it.
I guess I've never...
The Bond actors don't have a good track record. I guess I'm talking about Pierce Brosnan, but
the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that would have been interesting. But they ended up going with Christopher Plummer, who is a Broadway actor. I was reading about when they asked him to do this. Initially, he was not interested because he just didn't like how they had written the character. And basically, he was if you let me sort of give my input and make this a more fleshed out character, then I'll come on.
I'm going to make him even more of a bastard.
But so he was a Broadway actor. Pretty perfect fit, I think, for the role. Obviously, we'll get more into it when we get into the synopsis. But it had a budget in 1965 money of $8.2 million. And adjusting that for inflation, it's about $84 million. So pretty lean. I mean, and I think given the scale, it's pretty impressive that they were able to do what they did. The thing that's crazy, though, and again, it's one of those things where you just don't really... understand, growing up watching it on VHS, you don't understand how culturally impactful it was. In 1965 money, it made $286.2 million at the box office. So it surpassed Gone with the Wind pre-inflation calculation.
Right, if it was the first movie to do that.
Yeah, and then when you're adjusting that for inflation to today, it made $2.9 billion at the box office in 2025 money, and that's just fucking absurd.
Yeah,
it's not like movies now where it's we paid $300 million to make CGI slop. We'll just put it on streaming and see what happens.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, the payout is so massive. And I get how this was kind of like the musical craze. Like, you get Mary Poppins, you get Sound of Music, you get like all these like very big, bombastic, happy musicals with like show-stopping set pieces in the 60s into the 70s. And I'm like, okay, I get it now. Because apparently you can do that. You fucking... what's even 10 times? What's the word for that? I don't know. 10 times as much money as you put in, you will get out. Yeah. Which is just insane. Or is that 100? I think that's 100 times, actually. Yeah.
So that does put it in the top 10 highest grossing movies of all time. You know, which, again, it's just nuts. Like,
yeah. And I knew this movie was big, but I didn't know that. Yeah. I was just like, damn.
So it also did really well at the Academy Awards. It won 5 of them, including Best Picture and Best Director, which I agree absolutely. Like, I'd have to see what else came out at that time.
Not
but,
a lot.
This, okay.
Yeah, like I looked at the top 10 list from that. Like, Wikipedia has this whole top 10 of these years, and I don't even think I'd heard of it. I think Dr. Zhivago was the only other movie from that year.
Okay, holy shit,
that came out.
That would be a tough That'd be a tough one. That was another one that's on the top 10 highest grossing of all time.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's number 8 or something. Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah, but that's the only movie that jumped out at me from 65.
Yeah.
And there weren't any others that I recognized.
So it won some Golden Globe Awards. It won Best Motion Picture, Best Actress, Directors Guild of America Award for Outstanding Directorial Achievement, Writers Guild of America for Best Written American Musical. Eventually in 1998, the American Film Institute listed it as the 55th greatest American film and the 4th greatest musical film.
Yeah.
And I'd be curious to know what the 3 ahead of it are.
Actually didn't look into
Newsies 3 times in a row.
No. And then 2001, the United States Library of Congress selected it for preservation in the film registry.
Kind of a big deal, this movie.
Yeah.
Didn't know it was that big of a deal.
Before we get into the synopsis, we do this every episode. What's y'all's history with this?
So I had never seen the movie. I remember recording it on DVR when I was like in high school. I never got around to it because it's a 3-hour movie and it just seemed like a lot. I've seen the stage musical though, in college, and definitely it's better as a movie because you can show those sweeping like shots of the Alps and you have a lot more space to do the dances. The big thing though was I was working at the theater and we were told people can't take photos, they can't take videos because of copyright reasons. You're really going to need to be on point for that when the Nazi part happens. I was like, huh? Like, I'd heard about there's Nazis in it, but there was a scene where after the Anschluss, they just dropped Third Reich flags. Oh. And then immediately everyone took up their phone to take a Snapchat. I was like, no. Please don't geotag my school with all these swastikas.
Yeah, my history is that I worked at a German restaurant, so I literally heard this soundtrack on repeat day in and day out, and I think that gave in, like, that's probably the reason why I haven't seen it until now. It's just like, fuck this, I've heard all the music, and if I hear Do Re Mi one more time, I'm gonna blow my fucking head off. And, like, the German restaurant I worked at was, like, Bavarian, like, Southern German, and this, like, Austrian setting is a lot like that. Like, it's not identical. The German people would probably, like, throw off their lederhosen if they listen to this and go, oh, what? Bavaria and Austria, completely different. But there's like Baroque architecture. There's this small cathedral surrounded by the huge mountains like the Danube and right? And so like Southern German culture is pretty identifiable. Like Oktoberfest, the lederhosen, the Weisswurst, and the Weiss wheat beer. So like the entire culture of this music, or this musical, I feel like Americans like loved it so much that there's this subculture of like German obsession, specifically in like Southern German interests and like the Oktoberfest celebration. But in general, like I think this movie did a lot to bring that kind of niche culture to America. And that's the setting I worked in for like 6 years. So I had animosity to this movie going in. I'm not even going to lie.
But in a way, this musical is the reason you could pay for college.
Kinda, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And no debt. Woohoo! Thank you, Julie Andrews, Robert Wise.
So for me, this is another one of those that we had the VHS growing up. We watched it a lot. Back when I did theater, we did it at the like youth theater that I did shows at.
yeah.
And it was funny. I didn't actually audition for it. One day, one of the like directors was like, "Hey, you're playing the captain," and I was like, "Excuse me?" I'm like,
You were Georg?
"Yeah."
Oh shit.
Yeah. No. So I did it twice. I did it first when I was in like, I had to have been like in 7th grade or something, and like my voice was changing. It was real bad, and I was like dual cast as Rolf and the butler. And then, again, like later on, like when I was one of the older people at the theater, they were just like, "Hey, like you're the one that's doing this. Like it's not a question." And I was like, "Okay."
So you're telling me somewhere there's a little footage of 8th grade Matthew heiling Hitler?
Oh my! I don't know if we actually did.
What?
That or
then
not.
who is Rolf in this musical if he doesn't do that?
No, and so okay, we'll talk about this. Like. Are we fine jumping the gun on
Sure,
something?
fuck it.
So
it's from 65.
In the maybe it's like the junior version of the show, Rolf doesn't sell them out at the end. He just fucking lets them go.
That's dumb.
It's stupid.
Kids need to learn an important lesson that collaborators are real. And shouldn't be tolerated.
That is the first casualties of a fascist regime, are the people you lose who side with the government over their family and friends.
And that's, I always took issue with that, even, again, because having grown up watching it on VHS, I'm like, this isn't right. This isn't how it ends, you know?
You just wanted to wear one of those SA uniforms so badly.
Yeah,
they
wow.
told that from you.
Wow, canceled.
So with all that out of the way, I am going to kick things over to Ben for the synopsis.
All right, so the movie begins. It gives us this this kind of like text thing where it's like, oh, it's the 30s. It's the golden age of Germany or whatever, the golden 30s, which is strange off the rip because no, Germany is in a complete economic crisis following World War I. It's dire. They're going bankrupt. The global economy is collapsing. We'll talk about this at the very end, but the Von Trapp family in reality had lost all of their wealth by this time because of the global depression. So I don't know why it's it's the golden 30s. Okay, sure. Let's move on beyond that. But it starts with these really long sweeping landscape shots across the Alps and you just no music. It's just it's just sweeping and instantly it's funny, it reminded me of fucking Lord of the Rings. You know what I mean?
Oh my god, I was thinking of that at
right?
the end, yeah.
And I was like, dude, that's so cool. What a great way to establish the breadth of what we're talking about.
And then you just got to think about again, obviously decades later, filming shots like that in Lord of the Rings, they had sort of mastered how to do that. Mm-hmm. There's shots in this where I'm genuinely
how the fuck did they do that?
Yeah. They had helicopters.
Yeah, but early kind of shitty ones, I would imagine you get that high up into the air, you get, I don't know, it's honestly incredible.
Camera stuff was probably heavier too.
Right.
And how do you, I don't know. That's what I was thinking as well.
No, I completely agree. And we're sweeping those mountains, and then it takes us closer, and we start seeing trees and rivers, and then on those rivers, little microscopic boats, right? And you're like, oh, there's some people here. And then we move into seeing Salzburg from the perspective of the Alps, an overview, and it looks like a little makeshift town. You get closer into Salzburg, and it comes in and zooms in and zooms in, and then there's to a hill, and then Maria's on the hill dancing, and it just instantly sweeps in, and then the music swells, and she sings the sound of music, the hills are alive, and I was instantly holy shit, this is a good ass fucking movie.
Yeah.
It did not take long to really that is a fucking heavy punch to be yeah, this is what you're in for. This is what we're doing with this film. This isn't just a goofy musical. We're the Austria and Salzburg are as much of a character in this musical as Maria and the Von Trapps, which I thought was fantastic. So I was instantly sold into it. She's singing. The use of shadow and lighting is really cool. She's going in and out of trees, and she's going and descending into Salzburg and whatnot, singing the sound of music. So I was just instantly impressed with that. Do y'all have anything to add?
I was kind of underwhelmed by the song itself. The camera work, super cool, and everyone knows the hills are alive with the sound of music. But it was just oh, this is okay.
Yeah.
I do not have the song on my phone.
No, I always when they bring these movies back into Cinemarks or whatever, and they're oh, we're doing the sound of music, and then they show Maria going, the hills are alive,
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's literally the beginning of the movie. Like, just instant, we're in it. Like, okay, cool.
Turn it off. They said the title.
Right. So we go into Salzburg, and it goes to this abbey, right, where Maria is a nun at this abbey, and the nuns are complaining, right, with spectacular backhanded complaints about like, oh, she's simple and is well intentioned, but a fucking clown. And so they're complaining about her airheadedness, and they break out into song over their concerns.
It's so weird because it's like simultaneously like shit talking her, but then also like they see the good characteristics.
It's the bless her heart song.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
So she gets roasted. Honestly, like not a forgettable song. I kind of don't remember how it goes. It's not very dynamic. They're just in the abbey talking about this, and it's not bad. So Maria rushes in and is just being a goober. So the Reverend Mother, right, is basically like, okay, we'll find something to do with her. So she assigns Maria to be the governor of the Von Trapps, which is a family with a retired naval captain who is a widower. His name is Georg, right? Kind of like the German pronunciation of George. And he has 7 children, right? So Maria is sent on this mission, and she's unsure of the future, but she sings that I have confidence, that she sings this whole song and number and dances along, going from from the abbey to the Von Trapp house, skipping along and shaking her luggage and whatever.
They do this really long shot where she's walking down like the street, and it just keeps going, and it's like, that's amazing. Yeah, like it's so good.
And that's a shot that consistently happens, like when she's walking from the abbey or walking through Salzburg singing this song. Yeah. The camera is like tracking her from like, it's the camera's moving backwards and the character is moving towards the camera.
Right.
So it's just like moving, it's like you're moving with them. You have that momentum. So again, like Robert Wise being the editor of Citizen Kane, like I absolutely believe that. Like he brings his game to this movie. And this is just helps reinforce that Salzburg has its identity, and this is just showing like the fountains and the architecture, and it's really charming. So she gets to the Von Trapp villa, and she finds herself kind of out of her element. She knocks on the door, butler answers. It's a huge kind of mansion. She's wandering the halls. She goes into this like gilded room with like these beautiful ornate flourishings and mirrors, and it's a big ballroom. But it's kind of forbidden, right? So in the doorway stands Georg, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing in this room? Get out of here. You know, there's no merriment in my house." And then he summons his children with like a whistle.
A bosun whistle.
A bosun whistle.
I had to use that in college in the Corps of Cadets because it was naval themed. So that's how he would summon the upperclassmen for morning formation.
Like dogs.
And then when we got in trouble, we'd lose the whistle. And we had to earn it back by just working out a bunch. Such silly gay times at A&M.
Yeah, you should have been a Von Trapp. He summons his kids with the naval whistle. We have Liesel, Friedrich, Luisa, Kurt, Brigitta, Marta, and Gretel. Now, I only remember Liesel because she has a subplot. And like everybody else, I think Maria forgot Kurt's name. And that's why I remember Kurt. But yeah, none of them really are very involved in this movie beyond being a swarm of children, beyond like Liesel.
Yeah.
But they list off their names, and Georg tries to enforce that naval discipline, right? He's like, step forward and march and puff your chest out and renounce your name and ba. But it's like kind of his way of, you can kind of tell he's like coping with his dead wife. You hear stories about how his wife used to sing and be happy, and he's like, no singing because it makes me think of her or something. And so he's raising them without any of that. The children kind of resent the governesses, but they're acting out for their father's like attention. Yeah. So all these previous governesses that have taken care of these children have left. They were like, somebody only made it 2 hours. It's like, maybe you'll beat her record. But they put like a frog in her pocket, and she goes to have dinner with them, and they put a pine cone in her seat that she sits on. She's like, oh dear.
No, she covers though. Like she sits on the pine cone, and Georg's like, what's wrong? She's like, I'm just so overwhelmed by the love of this family.
That was kind of a lot, where like she kind of guilts the kids. She's like, oh, I just wanted to take a moment to thank all the children individually for being so welcoming and so lovely and really accepting me and not taking advantage of my hospitality in their home as my hosts. Like, thank you so much. And the kids like start fucking bawling, like all of them. Yeah. It was weird. There's some goofy 60s-ness. Yeah. And I was like, that's fine. And the dad's just like,
It's a good thing that she showed love, because otherwise those tricks would have just escalated to putting like use heroin needles in her pocket.
Exactly. And you can tell that this is the moment, like Georg says later in the movie, that he falls in love with Maria because he says, I have indigestion. Anyway. Okay. So Georg like receives a telegram, right, from this woman that he's courting, the Baroness von Schrader, which is a potential new wife, and he's getting ready to go to Vienna to meet her. So he's going to leave Maria in charge of the children, right? The telegraph is delivered by Rolf, Matthew's performance. I would love to see your input on this character in the movie, but it's delivered by Rolf, Liesel's sweetheart, and they go out into like the backyard to romance each other at this like gazebo, right? And a thunderstorm is starting to roll in, and she's singing about like how she's like, oh, young, and I'll be the attention of men, but I want you, Rolf, and ha ha ha. But she like probably hasn't had a first kiss, so it's very whimsical. But they sing 16 going on 17.
I love this song.
It's good.
Just some of the language is stuff that I haven't heard anywhere else, like bachelor dandies, drinkers of brandies. What do I know of those? It just gets me all like fuzzy inside.
So my input on this would be, imagine the person singing this, their voice is cracking every line.
Oh.
And that's what it was like if you...
I think that adds to the authenticity.
One thing I was really impressed with this, though, and again, it's like we've talked about the scale of this movie. You could have told me that they filmed this like actually outdoors, and I would have believed you.
They didn't.
They did film it on a soundstage.
Really?
Basically, it's my understanding that they built like pretty much a 2-scale replica of the gazebo at the actual mansion on a soundstage, because then they had to do this stuff with the rain. And I was also really impressed, not just in this scene, but later on too. Anytime they film at night in movies of this age, what they used to do would just be film during the day and put a filter over it.
Yeah.
And so then you'd see like...
That's a lot of shadows for a moonless night.
Right, yeah. Whereas this, it's like they filmed in darkness, but they just like cranked the lights to like an obscene degree, you know, and it looks phenomenal.
Well, and that also like
the
lighting and the shadow in this movie is really bold.
Yeah.
Like you're either in the brightness or you're in the shadow. Like there's not a lot of gray area here, which I think works really well. Like as they're dancing and doing like a waltz in the gazebo, they're moving, you know, they're kind of in the darkness there, but when they're on the bench, they're very illuminated. And it looks beautiful. And like the movement and the choreography.
Oh, it's great.
You're on you have a bench and a gazebo as your stage.
Yeah.
And they use it in 500 different ways in the span of like a 3-minute song. Like, and that's what a lot of these songs in the first act really felt like.
Yeah.
Like, how much can you do with a set this simple? And they do it all. And it's just really impressive to watch. Speaking of authenticity or voice cracks or whatnot, I have to say, like, it took me a while to adjust. It fell away after a while, but everyone speaks in very posh British accents. Yeah. And it just kind of takes me out of it if this is like the Austrian setting. You know, and like the people are named Georg and Liesel, but they're like, oh, and 16 going on 17. Like, no, I would like a little bit more of maybe a German accent.
This song also, like, with the choreography, maybe this is just like 60s and based off the 30s, more formal, trying to translate in 2025. I thought Rolf was gay. Because like they're dancing and they're about to kiss, and he's like, he just like
they're nervous.
He like grabs her shoulders and removes them, and then they give each other a little peck on the lips, and Liesel runs out of the gazebo and says, "Wee!"
Yeah, and then they just like cut it there. We kind of audibly chuckled when Liesel does her wee. She wheezes all over the place.
Gross.
So the storm is getting worse. She's getting rained on and drenched and blah, blah, blah. Maria's in her bedroom. We go to her, and she's preparing for bed, saying her prayers, when Liesel sneaks in through the window in her room and tries to get past. And in Maria's prayer, she's like, and God bless Liesel, who, I don't know what the fuck she's doing, this dumb bitch. And Liesel's like, no, don't tell on me. And she's like, no, I won't go change in my restroom or whatever. And the thunderstorm gets worse and worse, and different kids are coming into her room. Like first the little girls, and they're scared, and they're like, you think the boys will come? And she's like, oh, yeah, I do. It's like, they're going to say they're brave, but they'll come. And then they do. And all the kids are like in the bed with her, and Liesel comes out, and they're all scared of the thunder and shaking. And she's like, well, when I'm scared, I like to think of my favorite things. And then she sings my favorite things to settle their nerves. And I wasn't expecting, I knew this song, like every song they sing in this part, in the first half of the movie, I knew.
Yeah.
but I wasn't expecting the juxtaposition, and that's not a bad thing at all. Like, it's cool that we get a song about her favorite things as people are scared, and as there's a thunderstorm, and you're in this like a cramped space, and all you have is each other. It's like, well, let's think about this. Like in times of darkness, let's think about my favorite things. So I was totally just expecting some goofy meadow skipping of like, my favorite things are rose petals and puppies. Like, yay, life is sweet. So I thought it was very fitting to put that song here.
No, her favorite thing is string.
Yes, string. What the fuck is that?
It's brown paper packages tied up with string.
These are a few of my favorite things.
But again, very dynamic, skips around the room, does a lot with the set. The kids are all having a good time. And then Georg comes in and is wearing his nightgown with a tie, which is amazing. And he's like, what is this, merriment? Not in my house. And the kids all run away, and he glares at Maria, basically, and because he loves her at this point.
Yes.
But I have to say, like, we talked about how vast and broad the landscapes are and the scale of this movie. It's impressive because the house is so large, but every time they're in the house, it almost feels claustrophobic compared to, like, what we did get when we go outside to the gazebos or to the hillsides or to the city. The house feels really constricting, and it's huge too. It's like a mansion. So I was just a kind of a testament to how the scale and how they use it in this movie, I think. But anyway, after the song, Maria decides she's going to treat the children. Boo on your dad. We're going to go play. Okay. So she, instead of discipline, we go out, we go into the city. It's bright, sunny day. We're looking at, fruit stands and skipping around, and she's made them play clothes out of the curtains in the bedroom, which is funny.
Because they don't have play clothes because happiness and children is what caused his wife to die.
That's right. No play. So they're going around. She goes back to the hills where we first heard the sound of music. And she teaches them with her little guitar, a little picnic basket, how to sing with Do, Re, Mi, which is a song I've heard probably more than any other song in my lifetime. So the fact that this is like my favorite song in the movie, having seen it now, is like, good job, movie. You did it right. Because, again, they don't just do what they could have done of just like, have her sit on the hill, sing Do, Re, Mi. The kids sing along. She teaches them to sing, end scene, go to the next thing. The fucking editing and the different settings this song goes through, like, they go back into the city, they ride their bikes, they're running through, they go to a monastery, like, they're going everywhere, and the pacing is super tight, and just like the coordination, even on like the bike rides, like the two are coming up front and then the three fall behind, and then they're doing these coordinated, really practiced, it's so precise. I'm just like, holy shit. Like, the director, the people, you didn't have to go this hard on a Do, Re, Mi song. It was fucking awesome.
That's one of the things that we talked before of, like, you have the stage musical. Now that we're, like, using film, what's the purpose? And that was, like, that. Because now you can do a montage, and you can, it's, like you said, not just her having a little Sunday school with the kids. It's, like, showing them to enjoy the world around them. The first cut, though, caught both of us really off guard, though. Yeah. When they're just, like, in the meadow, and then it's just immediately the city, and it was like, that was jarring.
Mm-hmm. And they're, like, they're having, like, a spoken part of the song where she's like, oh, well, if you do different notes at different times, you can sing different songs, and you just put words over the notes, and then you have a song, and then they go back into the song. But incredible. And it really just feels like the filmmakers were flexing. Like, I don't know how else to put it. They're just like, oh, you expect us just to do a song? Fuck off. Like, we're going to blow your fucking mind. We're going to go do a million different things and coordinate them, and you're going to piss your pants, and we're going to win Best Picture. Like, yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah. Like, well done.
It surprised me a lot of times that, like, these classic movies are good, which is weird. Because, the thought is like, well, it was the 60s. It was either this or working in a coal mine. Fun hadn't been invented yet. And it's like, oh, it earned this level of cultural, like, influence.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like, the longevity of this movie is earned, I feel like. But I guess we'll save that for the end more. So after they finish singing, Georg is prepping for Vienna, and Rolf sneaks up, and he's like throwing pebbles at Liesel's window to say, like, mwah, mwah. And
we lost our virginity when we kissed. I want to do it again.
Yeah. But he's caught by Georg, and Georg's like, fuck you doing, boy? And he goes, Heil Hitler, and lifts his hand and, like, does the whole thing. And this is, like, kind of is this the first leak of Nazism into the film?
they had like mentioned it in passing, just like, you know, there's rumblings, stuff like that. But yeah, it's
At one point, Rolf had said something like, "Oh, like maybe your dad should stop being so Austrian." Like, or he says something like that, and it's like, as context gets added,
Georg, I guess, is trying to draw more distinction between Germans and Austrians, and then some other Austrians are like, "No, I think it's a good idea to be with the Germans," and then we just get straight up Heil Hitler, raise your hand as Boyos certified recommendation when doing your first impression to your sweetheart's father. Absolutely, try it out.
I get it, Nazis are bad, but any just very political thing, I'd be like going to your lady friend's house and there's a sign that's like, I don't know, like Kamala for president or whatever, and you just start the conversation with "back the blue,"
right? But I actually really appreciate it, and I'm a little disappointed. That's one of my things with this movie that I think it could have enhanced, is like, we just got a taste of paradise. The kids are playing. They're in these, just every fruit is the ripest, most beautiful fruit you've ever seen in this market. They're skipping in the hills. They're riding their bikes. They're swimming. They're laughing. It's great. Like, being Austrian is fucking sick. Heil Hitler. Oh, yeah. Right. I forgot about that. And I think that's just such a cool, like, fly in the ointment, the wart, and just the snake in Eden. And I wish they did more to build on that instead of just like, well, now that we're in the third act, Nazis.
Yeah, I wish we talk about it, we don't show you it. And part of that, from a production standpoint, was filming things with the Nazi flag where they filmed them was difficult to arrange, because the city was like, fuck no, you're not going to do that. And then they were like, well, we'll just use archival footage instead. And then they were like, oh, okay, well,
that's interesting.
For the sake of realism, we'll let you do that.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, so.
But, no, I mean, I would have liked to see more interruptions, like abrupt ends to playtime and fun because of Nazis. Like, I think that could have been worked in more and more. But we get it a little bit here. And Georg is like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Get off my property. So Rolf leaves, and Georg goes out, right? So he leaves, and when he's arriving back, he's bringing his lady friend, the Baroness von Schrader, and their friend Max Detweiler. And as they're coming back in their car, they see the kids playing in the trees, and Georg is like, I wonder whose those are. Like, a bunch of urchins.
Like, just like the homeless children keep going.
Yeah, so I think he like genuinely doesn't recognize them, but then kind of double takes and is like, were those my fucking kids? But they're just having a good time in their car ride. And the friend, Uncle Max, I guess we call him, is just a fantastic, likable bastard.
He is great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's just conniving and a cheapskate, and he's like, I love rich people because they just give me things, and I'm a mooch.
But it's not even that. Like, that's like the first layer of him. Yes, that's who he is. But then it's like you peel that back, and we get there later on, and there is like a love and like fondness that he has for them.
Yeah. So I love Max. Sorry. As they arrive, the children, right, they go from the trees, and now they're in a boat, and Maria's like, sailing them around in the little boat, and like their backyard just goes into a lake, basically. Yeah. So the boat upturns, all the kids get wet, and they're in their play clothes, and they run up, and Georg is having none of it, and he's like, we're meeting your perhaps future mother, and he makes them line up, and the children greet them, and Georg is incensed, so all the kids run inside. The Baroness leaves, and Maria's going in when he's like, no, you don't. Come back here. We got to talk about this bullshit.
Because he's in love with her.
Right. That's why he's so fucking pissed at her.
Yeah.
And he starts yelling at her about like, well, you're fired, basically. Like, this is ridiculous.
He calls out the fact that they're wearing curtains. He's like, what were they wearing? And she's like, oh, I made them play clothes from the curtains. He's like, you mean to tell me that my kids have been seen wandering around the fucking city in curtains? And his timing is like so perfect in like the delivery. And again, it's like, it's not authentic to the accent that he should have at all, but like,
it does communicate that nobility really well, which is like where he gets all of his like disdain and rigidness. Yeah. So I think I could deal with just Georg having that posh accent. But like Maria or Julie Andrews like really does. She sounds like fucking Mary Poppins.
I mean, it makes sense.
I know, it totally does. It like was the same year, same actress. But like, I would really appreciate that separation. The parallels with Mary Poppins were a bit much, I have to say.
She did part of like when she accepted the role was initially there's some like I guess earlier version of the script where she was even like sweeter, like and she was like I don't really like that.
It's a spoonful of sugar on your character.
Right. And so they, I guess, toned that down a little bit and sort of humanized her a little bit more, which, yeah.
One of the things, though, the scene before then, it's weird that they make the Baroness, like, a good, sweet person, and they never, like, pay off to show that she's secretly a bastard. At the beginning, Georg and her are walking in the garden, and he's like, I think you saved me. I've been in depression and I'm just like happy around you. And there was a different movie where it's just those two and Max having adventures, but they're just like, nah, dump her for a 20-year-old.
No, they share a genuinely beautiful moment.
Oh yeah, and that's I think what I'll say about that is I appreciate how like she's not a one-sided sort of character because they could have done that, you know, where it's just like she's terrible, like she's a wicked stepmother sort of thing, but it's like, you know, it just and we'll get there later in the movie, obviously. But yeah.
But anyway, so he's like in the process of firing Maria, and then Maria fires back, and she's like, "No, you're a big old bastard, and you're mean, and these kids need to fucking play, and you need to get over yourself." And
they need a father, damn it.
Yeah, basically. And they're like, "Don't you see that the kids are only acting this way because you don't pay attention to them?"
Yeah,
and just really like roasts Georg in a good way, like in constructive ways, and Georg like shuts up and then is like, I don't care, you're fired. And he like goes inside the house.
He calls her his previous wife's name. He's like, I know Stephanie or something.
Oh, does
that.
he?
Yeah,
maybe
and
I missed
like,
that.
And he like catches himself and he's like, oh fuck.
Okay.
Yeah.
The plot thickens.
Yeah.
I guess he did that because he loved her already.
Yeah.
It's building. So he goes inside and he's like, I don't care, you're fired. But then he hears his kids singing The Sound of Music to the Baroness. And just blossoms like a caterpillar, I guess, cocoons, becomes a butterfly instantly, is a new man, born again, starts like, he's like, oh, that was beautiful. It's like, I'm going to sing a song. Or he like sings along or something, right? Doesn't he sing with the kids?
It's towards the end of The Sound of Music, the reprise that he joins in. And then I think it's Max is like, oh, like you used to sing a lot. And the Baroness is like, oh, I have to hear that. And then he fucking pulls a guitar out of his butt and starts.
And says, anyway, here's Wonderwall.
That's right.
Yeah, well, I'll let you, you know.
Does he sing Edelweiss at this point?
Yeah, he does.
I thought it was after the puppet show.
No, this is like, it's him finally coming out of his shell of going like, he sings Edelweiss, which weirdly, this version is not on the soundtrack.
Really?
Yeah, like if you on Apple Music or Spotify, they have the reprise later, but they don't have this one.
Huh. Yeah,
That's strange.
This is it's either my first or my second favorite song. And we'll get to the one that is a contender for it a little later, but like I love this. I love this song. And again, I know like I've heard this probably 4 times less than Do Re Mi, but yeah. Yeah, no, it's a really good one. Yeah.
But okay, so his heart has grown 3 times this day, and he's now singing Georg, but he doesn't want his kids performing. Uncle Max is like, you guys are wonderful, the Von Trapp family singers. Let's go to this competition.
Make a shit ton of money.
A shit ton of money. And he's like, absolutely not. I don't want my kids to sing in public because I want to have artificial conflict. The end. He doesn't really explain it beyond that.
Their mother died when they were singing. That's why I hate all joy.
Yeah. Anyway, he goes to like the Gilded Room, or all of them go to the Gilded Room for another performance where the kids like do a puppet show. And that sounds lame as fuck. You're an idiot. This is like the best part of the fucking movie. It is insane.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Like,
the note in our outline is literally gush about the puppets.
Yeah. Like, we saw in the opening credits, right? They list the actors and the actors, directors, and they said like puppeteers. Like we saw that and we were like, what the fuck, puppeteers? What's that? And this is what it is.
Yeah.
And like, I just remember thinking, I don't know, it made puppets look cool. I don't know how you do that.
It's like marionette puppets, and it's one of those things that like any child can do that. And you actually think, because they're like spinning the puppets and they're dancing with each other and the strings.
Raising eyebrows.
I'm just like, oh my God, this is incredible.
Yeah.
Again, this is like very much a like DFW area thing, and like maybe y'all did this or not, but did y'all ever go? There was some like puppet theater thing, and in like elementary school, it was what the fuck? What it was like? Peter and the Wolf or something
Yeah,
was
dude.
the one they did like every fucking year.
Yeah.
And so like this this movie and then that, like growing up, I don't know why, and then Pinocchio too, I guess. It's like fucking puppet coded
Dude, it's big
childhood.
puppet.
Like, it's weird.
Fucking,
like-
it was all just a ploy to get us to buy puppets ourselves. Did you buy one? Did you have a puppet?
Yes.
Yes, me too.
Well, and then again, this is like you go to fucking San Antonio or whatever, and they have the mariachi like puppets that you would have that are just like little tchotchke.
No, I
things,
remember that very well of like being a kid. I'm like, I'm going to learn how to puppet. That looks cool. And then I try for 3 minutes and the strings get tangled and I'm like, fuck that.
It's the same thing with like yo-yos where
Yeah.
they had, with Duncan or whatever the thing is, and they do the assemblies for it, and it's like, this is weird use.
They do a yo-yo thing, but also, you know what's even cooler than yo-yo? Not doing drugs.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I need to watch like Being John Malkovich to remind me again, like why we shouldn't be puppeteers. But in this movie, The Lonely Goat Herd, the puppet show, fucking amazing. Like we watched this together, you and I, Ben, and we were just basically aghast. Like we were like, this was fucking awesome. And the song is a bop too.
It's a good song.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that once in a while I'll see something that reminds me why I watch movies. 'Cause
Yeah.
It just moves me emotionally, and usually it's like a much more dramatic emotion, or like this is what it means to be human. But it was like warm joy in my stomach, and I felt like a kid. It was a beautiful moment.
And I don't think a song, or not a song, a movie so far, as what we've gotten to thus far. We're about a little over a third of the way through the movie at this point, and like every single song, besides maybe the Abbey song with the nuns, gave me like chills.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I'd heard these songs so many fucking times, and I was completely exhausted with them, and then they still gave me chills, and I was still like so invested in every music number, and I was like amazed at what they were doing with these. So fucking A, Sound of Music, great job.
I was also surprised how much they front load the songs, because they were like, okay, that's all the songs we've heard of. Like, there's maybe one more. And then we checked; it's been like 40 minutes, and it's a 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
Are we just going to turn into a normal straight play at this point?
I mean, it's sort of like Wicked then, and like is part 2 coming out this year?
I think in November.
Yeah, I just was, again, it's like doing that as a 2-part movie. You're so front loaded with like all the good songs. Similar thing here where you end up with a lot of reprises.
Oh yeah.
In the second half, and it's like reprises are fine, but like I don't know, you're like, damn.
Well, yeah. If your hors d'oeuvre and first course are like the best shit you've ever put in your mouth, and then your dessert is good, you're not gonna be talking about it just feels like it doesn't feel as well rounded when you just get reprises in the second act. Like we'll get there,
Right.
but this first act is one of the strongest pieces of filmmaking I've ever seen, like, straight up. And I swear, like I might be having a stroke. You're probably right, but I could have sworn Edelweiss was after this song, which I may be wrong, but I do know that we go from Edelweiss to the Goat Herd, or we go from the Goat Herd to Edelweiss in the span of like 2 minutes, and to go from like a lullaby from one guy to this is one of the highest like energy, yodeling puppet show with its high energy with all the kids in Maria and everybody's involved in clapping. That's masterful. Like, how do you bridge those things well? And they found like it worked beautifully. So props there as well. Anyway, after the puppet show, the Baroness is like, well, this was fucking lovely. Obviously, y'all are the most talented people on earth that I've ever seen. How have we not done this puppet show for the public at this point? But I want to organize a party, says the Baroness. So Georg goes, what a splendid idea. And they, with all the whimsy, they decorate, they host a ball, and they bring in all their guests, and it's like a white tie event, and people are in their ball gowns, and it's beautiful, and the Austrian waltzes are filling the halls that are really just reprises of the music we've already heard, but it works really well. They're hanging a big ass.
Stuff like that is charming, though. I sort of like when they do that.
Yeah.
But,
It makes the music seem more like an element of the world instead of these like, oh, it's time to sing, now it's time to get back to the story.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But they hang a big ass Austrian flag. And one of these guys comes in, and his name is Herr Zeller, and he's like the antagonist, basically. Comes in and he goes like, oh, Austrian flag, do you see that? Why would you have national pride? We should be more Nazi German. And Georg roasts the shit out of him. And he's like, well, if we go there, if we were in an orchestra, I'm sure for the Nazis, you'd be the entire trumpet section. And he goes, oh, thank you, Georg. He goes like, oh, Oh, I'm sorry. Did you think I was complimenting you? It's like, absolutely not. It's just like, meh, meh, meh. But people are dancing. Maria's out in basically like the patio area, the garden area, in kind of a dance space of its own. Georg goes out there, and a very traditional Austrian folk song plays, and they both know the dance moves, and they dance together, and it really brings them together and connects them. Yeah.
Well, and we see throughout the movie, there's the Vaseline on the
Jesus
camera.
Christ, yeah.
They do it a lot, but again, it's like, I don't think...
But it's so ethereal and dreamlike.
No, it just looks like Vaseline.
I don't know. I think for this movie, it works more than like, I don't know, a fucking On Her Majesty's Secret Service when they're like, yeah, it's like, this is a weird movie to do that in. But I think it, again, for what it's worth, I
don't like the effect at all. and if you're going to do that effect, for the love of God, don't have a light in the shot, because it just like makes the whole thing look really hazy.
Yeah.
Because it's just so blurred. So like, yeah, one of the worst offenders I can think of randomly is like the original Star Trek series. Like anytime they show a beautiful woman, it's just fast, like the fucking cameraman splooged it all over the lens. It's fucking awful. Anyway, so they're dancing, and this is when they become really close. And the Baroness comes out and finds them like that. And Gary's like, oh, and Maria's like blushing, and she kind of runs away. And then it's time for the children to say goodnight to the guests. So we go in, and does he whistle again? With his little, okay,
no,
he doesn't.
He's learned to love.
He's learned to love. He's blossomed. But he's like, that children, the Von Trapp family would like to say goodnight to you. And they sing So Long, Farewell, Auf Wiedersehen, Goodbye, or Good Night, or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is just very fun. And we could not watch it without fucking thinking of Family Guy. God damn it.
Yeah.
But the kids go to bed. Maria's up in her room, and the Baroness is like throwing the cold shoulder.
Yeah,
because
she's like, they're like, oh, you should like come to the dinner party, and she's like, yeah, I don't know if I should do that or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I don't have anything really fancy to wear. Schrader is like sort of egging her on a little bit, where she's like, oh, well, you could wear that green one that like he couldn't take his eyes off you in the other night. And she's like, what?
Yeah. And she's like, oh, nothing's more attractive to a man than a woman in love. And it's like, yeah, I see you, Georg. And he's like, ooh. But the Baroness goes up to Maria's room as she's like changing, and then basically gives her the talk of like, hey, you're like, what does she even say to her specifically to like try to get her to rethink the whole thing? She's like, you're in love with Georg, and that's not right, and you're just supposed to be taking care of the kids, and this is going to fuck up your whole thing, so you should probably resign.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah. Well, or no, it's like love passes or something, and then he'll like think more of it and know that he's going to get with me. It's like, so she was basically just saying like, it's going to pass. Like, it's not legit,
Is this a bit blunt? Yes. Is the Baroness the villain for doing this? I don't think so. I think it's like
a very
honest.
human thing, and like because she loves Georg too.
Yeah.
And so it's like, sometimes people don't do things that are great, but again, we see the true, sort of heart that she has later on. And we'll get there. But yeah.
So Maria's like in this dilemma, and she's like, no, it is best if I leave. And I don't want to, complicate the situation. So she's listening to the ballroom and the dancing that's still going on the dinner party. She's in the main hall by herself. She leaves a little note on the end table and Irish goodbyes and goes out the door, which brings us to intermission.
Sidebar, more movies need intermissions. I think the last one I've heard of having one was The Brutalist, which granted was like 3.5 hours. But it's nice.
It is.
Why don't movies do it? It's a chance to buy more concessions.
Yeah, that's right. Like theaters are fucking dying. Like give us more opportunity to go out. We need to go to the bathroom, goddammit. And I'm tired of sprinting down the aisle to try to like not miss key dialogue.
Oh my god, yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
So intermission's gold standard.
Right.
Anyway, intermission ends. The movie returns, and Von Schrader is awkwardly trying to interact with the kids and play games with them, but they're just not into it. And they're like, I don't want to do it no more. She's like, I can't connect with these kids. And then Max is like, well, don't worry, there's always boarding school. And she's like, that's true. Which sounds really bad. But the kids are in the midst of Auschwitz, of like the Nazi environment. So boarding school, maybe not a bad idea.
This is, they're like, he's trying to train them up to sing for the thing, and they're like, they're not into it anymore now that Maria's gone too. That's another element where it's like, the sort of joy has left the household just in general.
Yeah, but they just try to make Von Schrader the villain, like try and make her seem like Radican, the world's greatest criminal mind, because she doesn't, as a woman in like her 40s, know how to handle 7 children.
Yeah.
And
it's not that she resents them. She's just clumsy with them. And that's it. Like, that's...
In the stage musical, she has 2 songs, where I forget what they're called, but she basically says, like, it comes off that she's money grubbing and that she has Nazi sympathies. Of just like, it's going to happen, might as well roll with it. And it's like, why would you cut that? Because now you just have this guy who had a very tender moment saying, I've finally, like, you're getting me out of my shell. And he dumps her for a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Which is not a timeless love story.
No, yeah. It puts Maria and Georg in this, like, negative light. Like, I think that's accurate to what love does.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's a little, they're a bit selfish. And, like, the Baroness gets shafted. And I don't feel like it's justified with all that we see in the movie. But I agree with you. I think taking that music out would have really fleshed this out and made us had not so much sympathy. Because, like, did you feel that?
And they talked about that in the, like, those 2 specific songs that they removed. That's, like, the reason they did it. Because then they're like, you know, if you go too much into, like, I don't know, like, that aspect of her character, then it's sort of like, I don't know, it's less believable than when she's like, oh, no, like, y'all, you know.
No, go all into it. Just her saying, oh, for our honeymoon, we can visit Auschwitz. And then I can strangle puppies.
Oh. I think we should see other people. Anyway, something I've noticed is, like, off the rip, right? Into the second act, the camera is way more static and it's way more boring.
Yeah.
Like, there's not dynamicism.
Yeah.
And I almost thought that it was like, oh shit, is it meta? Like, are we supposed to feel Maria's presence gone from this in, like, the soul leaving the movie?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's brilliant. But then even when Maria comes back, it doesn't improve. And I'm like, damn. And I thought they were going for something. I felt like such a big brain, and then it just kind of...
And they front-loaded all the good songs.
Yeah.
Like, when she goes back to the Abbey and the Mother Superior is trying to convince her to go back, she sings, what is it? Climb Every Mountain. Yeah, I had to look at the script to remember what it was called.
That's the one where I was saying it's either this or Edelweiss. Yes,
really?
I love that song.
Wow.
It's a really good one.
I mean, the actress has pipes, but it is so
and that's why I think
boringly shot.
Yeah, I suppose if I close my eyes and listen to all the music, maybe I think that would rank a lot higher.
Yeah.
But I was with Ben. I was just so fucking bored. I mean, we'll get there in a sec.
Yeah.
I want to talk about it. But, you know, camera's kind of static, blah, blah, blah. But Baroness is like, oh, maybe we'll send them to boarding school. The children are trying to get Maria back from the Abbey, right? They're all upset and they don't understand why she left. So they go to the Abbey, but the other nuns like rebuff them. They're like, well, Maria hasn't talked to us either. She doesn't want to see you guys. Like, go away. And they're like, no. So obviously something's wrong with Maria. The Mother Superior visits her, or the Reverend Mother. And then we get the song, right? Where basically Maria tells her what's up. And I love the fucking part where there's another nun eavesdropping. And she's like, can you shut the door? And she leaves. You nosy bitch.
No, I love the other nuns. They're so sassy. And like, well, there's something that happens later.
Sure.
Again, I think it's just the context around this song. But then the fact that the Mother Superior is like... almost looking at her more as like a daughter than like as a like I don't know underling or and so it's like this sort of motherly attachment, and we hear that too earlier on. Like she asks like, well, why did you join the convent? And she's like, oh, like growing up, like, you know, I lived on the mountain and like, you know, I would go into town and like peek over the garden and like hear you singing and stuff. And like that's, I think, the sort of thing where I'm like, you know, then for her to be like, no, like, this is not the life that you need.
Yeah.
Like, you need to.
You think you wanted this.
Yeah, right.
But you didn't.
Oh,
and that's okay.
Chills. Yeah. No, I love it. Yeah.
It is really good. And again, the lighting is something that is really nice in this scene. The blocking isn't there. They don't move. They don't use the nun's office at all. Well, I wouldn't imagine the nuns dancing and skipping around.
Also, her being like probably 90 or something didn't help, you know. But yeah, no, I like it a lot. And again,
but I mean, you could do like hand move, you could do body language, and a lot of that is lacking.
Yeah.
She goes to a window.
Yeah,
that's cool. But they sing this song. Maria's inspired. She returns to the family. She's skipping around. Starts singing about her favorite things again as she was running up to the kids, and the kids are like, hooray! And all the kids gather around her. and are super happy that she's back. But Georg's just standing there and looking at her like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing back? But they still kind of connect, and there is still that like lovingness between them, and the Baroness sees it again and basically calls off the engagement, right? Having seen that Maria comes back for him.
Well, there's like this initial part where they're talking and he's like, yeah, we're like engaged now, blah, blah, blah. And then like, maybe that's later on where...
No, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Where Georg tells Maria that he's engaged, and she's like, oh, I shouldn't have done this.
Right, yeah.
But the Baroness like calls it off because, she sees the chemistry, and she's like, well, that's how it's supposed to be, I guess, and I'll step away, which, again, doesn't really, like, she's more of a victim than anything.
She takes it with a lot of grace.
Yeah. So Georg and...
the line that she says, and I'm like, again, it's one of these things, like, I don't know if maybe just they cooked back then with how they wrote. She's like, you have this, and again, timing wise, you would not see like probably a lot of wealthy women like that, but she's like, I need a man that like needs me desperately or something. Like she said, but she says it so eloquently, and it's like written so like damn, like part of it's just putting on a stiff upper lip, but like,
sure,
it's a good line.
Yeah, she's a good character.
Yeah,
I'm sad to see her go. But Georg and Maria declare their love in another song, Something Good, which is, again, at the gazebo that we got 16 going on 17 without the passion. Like, it just, the movement's not there. The creativity's not there. They're just kind of dancing and talking about it. Like, it just felt flat. Like, this second act half of this movie just falls flat.
Okay, and this is just my read on it, but like 16 going on 17, those are like kids in love, whereas like, I don't know, the Captain and Maria, it's more of a like mature love, I guess, and so it's like, in that regard, it's like, it would be less playful. That doesn't excuse that there's just not like a ton going on, but like, that's just my read on it.
But like, Maria's pretty childlike.
That's fair.
You know, and like if this was with Georg and the Baroness, I could probably see that a little bit more, but I don't know, it just feels a little bit out of character for like Maria to be in this song where every time we've seen Maria singing, she's like completely just like bursting with energy. And then this is just very like, I don't know. But anyway, Georg and Maria are then married. Maria's in her wedding dress, and we get a reprise of the song that the nuns sang, which is funny because like
they call her a clown as she's walking down the aisle.
I do, and again, this is like one of the things where I'm like, this sort of like found family thing with her and the nuns, where they're like her not best ladies or whatever, but like they're the ones getting her ready and like her little wedding veil. And then they're hanging out behind whatever the weird fucking gate is before you are there. But I don't know. I thought that was cute.
Yeah. But they're calling her a clown as she's walking down the aisle. The wedding bells are ringing. All of Salzburg is celebrating, it looks like. And it's like, hooray! And this brings a natural conclusion to the movie. And it ends here if you were in West Germany at this time, because they edited the movie to leave out the third act for West Germany in 1965.
Well, I can just picture that because it's the wedding bells are chiming, and then they like abruptly cut, and there's the Nazi flags that like it's either they pan up and they're there, or they like unfurl. There's some like really good shot, and again, this is like, I think you talked about like first act. There's a lot of really good cinematography. I think this scene where like the cathedral bells are ringing and then it transitions to that is like a very like, oh shit.
Well, and if we want to even go deeper, you want to get even more pretentious, the union between Georg and Maria, there's a union as well between Germany and Austria. And there's like that, like it's a double marriage, but so
their marriage also had a fixed election where they're like, yep, 99% said it was a good idea.
Exactly. I did learn like the Alps that they film in is incredibly close to the Eagle's Nest, which is like Hitler's private retreat in Austria. So that's fascinating. But I'm not don't get me wrong, I'm not upset at all that this movie is going to go into this new direction in this third act of like confronting Nazism and fascism and how to deal with it and getting away from it. But again, it's just so abrupt. Like, I wish there was more sinew connecting the previous parts of this movie to the new part we're getting into.
Right, yeah.
It just is so like, okay, now that we dealt with Georg and Maria, now we can talk about Nazis.
It's like I talked to Ben about it. Have you ever seen the movie Australia?
No.
It's like a romance with Hugh Jackman, and like the first 2 hours is like they're doing a cattle drive and they're enemies to lovers or whatever, and they're finding each other, and then that ends and it's a normal movie, and then there's another hour of like and World War II, and it's just what?
Yeah, it just feels a bit stapled on, and I like it. Like I like where this movie goes, but
Right.
I wish there was a little bit more. Anyway, we flash forward a month. And Marie and Georg are on their honeymoon, and Austria is now annexed by Nazi Germany in the Auschwitz. Georg is summoned back, or is summoned to join the German Navy. Basically, the children are performing for Max in a square, and Herr Zeller comes and is like, I need, the captain, because he's to report to the Kriegsmarine. And he's like, ooh, okay. So Georg and Maria come back. Max fills him in on the details. Georg is like, absolutely not. Like, I'm not going to.
And again, this is like, Max is a fucking like straight up G where he's like, well, fucking send him a telegram. He's like, how often would someone check on their kids when they're on their honeymoon? And it's like, yeah, fucking own that bitch, dude. It's like, oh yeah, I love him.
And when Max anytime is like, maybe we should just go with it, Georg is like, who the fuck am I talking to right now?
Right.
I thought you were a different person. Who are you? And Max is like, damn, you right. It's like, hell yeah. But Georg, refuses to do this naval commission.
He tears the Nazi flag, which
dude,
I was
badass.
What a fucking daddy.
Yeah.
Like, the captain is top tier daddy. He can sing. He's a looker. He hates Nazis.
Dude,
like
it's the complete package.
Yeah, the complete package. Yeah.
Yeah, that was badass. It's like they put the Nazi flag in front of the Von Trapp house.
Yeah.
He's like, fucker.
Yeah.
So, full on Nazi Rolf is like a part with Herr Zeller and is like trying to,
he's a little toady now.
Yeah, to maneuver around the Von Trapps in this way as well. But now Georg is going for a plan of escape, right? Despite apparently having good people on both sides, right? Georg is looking to flee across the Alps. So now from here, right, they're getting ready to leave. They're getting into their car. They're like, yeah, we got to get the fuck out. They get into their car. They put their luggage together. They get the kids in there. They're driving, and it's night. And they're driving through the street, and they're stopped by Herr Zeller and the local brown shirt collaborators. Right, thinking fast, Georg says he's just taking his family to sing at the festival.
They're like, because they're pushing the car. He's like, oh, why are you pushing your car? And he's like, oh, it wouldn't start. And then fucking Zeller's like, hey, like, guy, go get his car to start. And then he like starts it immediately, and he's like, these cars, like, what can you do?
I forgot about that. Yeah, they were pushing it to like keep it stealthy.
Right, because they didn't tell the butler or the chef. They're like, yeah, we're not gonna say anything. We're just gonna be gone. That way they are not complicit in our escape.
Nice.
So if they ask, then they'll be telling the truth, basically.
Okay.
And it's like, oh.
Yeah, and they're also just like, yeah, we'll escort you to the festival. I was like, I think we can do it ourselves. No, I insist.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. So they take the Nazis and Herr Zeller take the Von Trapps to the festival, despite Georg's reservations about singing in public. Right. Yeah. So at this festival, they do the greatest hits. Basically, they do a reprise of Do Re Mi and Edelweiss. And Georg is singing this Edelweiss, and there's a moment. It's pretty cool where like, the Herr Zeller and the Nazis are front row, and the Nazis are behind him, watching him, and like making sure he's not going to flee.
The rafters too.
It's like it looks like an aqueduct.
Yeah,
that's behind them. It's a really cool setting, an outdoor concert.
Oh yeah.
So it looks almost like Roman, which is neat. Yeah. But the Nazis are up in those that kind of like aqueduct arches, watching this performance. They sing Do Re Mi together, but then Georg is left on stage by himself singing Edelweiss, and he's like losing volume and confidence as he's singing it, and then he's like joined by Maria, who helps him, and then kind of the kids, and then the crowd starts singing Edelweiss, and they do it in a way where it's like, this is a song of Austrian identity.
Yeah.
And the Austrians are singing with it, and the Nazis aren't, and the Nazis are upset that it's this popular in the crowd, and it's just a really cool way to illustrate like that the people are against the Nazis, and that the Nazis in trying to grip tighter, more is getting through their fingers, right? It's kind of like to hold on to water.
Right.
So that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, but this was one of the 2 times in my life I have just felt patriotism for a country I've never been to. Because it's like, just the swelling of identity resisting Nazis. The only other time is the end of Call of Duty World at War, when you're storming the Reichstag and you're shot and you're planting the Soviet flag.
Hell yeah, dude.
Like, you get him, you commie bastard.
Is it Reznov?
Yeah.
It's like, my fucking boy. All right, hell yeah, dude. Now I'm patriotic as shit. Fucking so. Anyway, they wrap up Edelweiss. The crowd goes wild. And then they do a reprise of So Long Farewell. And one by one, they disappear into the side exit of the stage. And they leave. And then basically one by one, they're like, oh, let's talk about the winners. And Max understands what's happening, right? Max is the announcer.
It. Yeah, right, yeah.
And he helps them. And he's announcing, and he's the host, basically. So he's like, in third place, this woman. In second place, these people. In first place, the Von Trapp family. Da, 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 da. And then nobody comes out. And he's like, the Von Trapp family. Da, 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 da. Nobody comes out. And the Nazis are like, wait a minute. And Max is like, whoop, they're gone. So the Von Trapps are fleeing. And the Nazi goons are on their heels. So the Von Trapps decide to go back to the Abbey, which I think is great. Like, I love how this really brings it all full circle.
Yeah.
So the Von Trapps go back to the Abbey. And the nuns are like, here, come with us. We'll hide you in the crypt. And then they're hiding behind these like this gated off kind of grave with these sepulchers. And the Nazis are shining flashlights one by one, very slowly. It's very tense.
There's this, and again, I understand, like, you want to give the kids some agency or role in what's happening. It's Gretel is like, would this be a good time to sing about our favorite things?
No.
And Maria's like, no, this would not.
I'm scared like the thunderstorm. Favorite things. No. Thank you for reminding me the kids are in this movie, honestly. I was just like, I forgot about it.
They when they're pushing the car earlier too, like, they won't shut the fuck up. Like, they're like, why don't we just get in the car? And it's like, you don't understand what's happening.
Yeah. But so the Rolf is among these Nazis, and they're looking for the Von Trapps. Rolf is suspicious, so the Nazis are like, let's go check the roof, and they all leave, but Rolf he stays behind.
Hides behind a gravestone.
Yeah, because he has a suspicion that they're here. So after a minute or two passes, the Von Trapps start emerging from behind the graves and getting together, and Rolf jumps out from the grave and shines a flashlight on the family. Yeah. And they're like, whoa! So they're found. And he's like, basically Georg is like, keep going, I'll stay with Rolf. And he's like, no, don't keep going. He's like, shut up, Rolf.
He pulls a gun on him.
Yeah,
which,
Rolf,
like, the amount of tension that they were able to build in a fucking musical.
Yeah.
Called The Sound of Music.
Yeah.
It's like, I was like, and again, I know what happens, but it's like, it just, it built it up.
Yeah, Rolf has this Luger out, and he's pointing it right at Georg's chest, and Georg's like, you're not going to shoot me.
Yeah,
you're not like, one of them.
He's got it pointed at it. He's walking closer to him, talking to him. And then he like gets close enough to grab the gun out of his hand.
And Rolf like is letting this happen, and we're getting like, oh good, Rolf is coming back.
He says like, put it down. You can come with us. You can leave this all like right now.
And I love that like he's so close to breaking through to Rolf.
Yeah.
And then he blows it in a line that's true, but it pisses Rolf off.
Yeah.
And he goes like, you'll
never be one of them.
Yeah, you'll never be one of them.
Oh.
And like that, I don't know. That just has, I just feel like
it gave me chills.
I know, even just
like,
now.
Yeah, it's fucking, oh my God.
And with that, Rolf
crazy
is like,
though that politics were invented by the Disney Corporation in 2015.
I know, right? Why do they always got to get political? But with that, Rolf is like, no, I am one of them. And he blows his whistle, and he's like, they're here. The Von Trapps are escaping, and runs off. And Georg has to flee with the kids. So they all jump into the car. They drive away. The Nazis are rushing to their cars. They jump in. They try to start them, and they're all stalling. And they're like, what the hell is going on? And we go to the Mother Superior, or the Reverend Mother, and two nuns. And the two nuns are like, forgive us, Mother, we've sinned. And she's like, what did you do? And they pull out like car parts, which is awesome.
I love them. They're so, oh my God.
Just another thing I couldn't stop thinking about Family Guy. Where it's like, I have sinned. It's like, oh, that's okay. And the other one pulls out Rolf's head. It's like, oh my God. It's like, he started this war. I'm finishing it.
Yeah. I didn't start this war, but I'm fucking going. So we go from the car stalling at night to a bright day when the Von Trapps are going over the Alps. Again, in a really impressive shot. Like, you can tell it's from a helicopter. Right. You can kind of see the wind going like from the blades.
And this, I can't, I think, express in words enough. Filming on location for stuff like this.
Yeah.
Comparing it, like the thing I was thinking about specifically was in again, Thor Ragnarok, good movie, but whenever they're in that fucking like mountain cliff side thing, you know, where they're with Odin and he's like, this could be fucking Asgard. Or whatever. And it's very clearly a green screen.
Yeah.
And it, comparing that to this, where you're like, you see the wind blowing through the grass,
and
like
it's like
they
more
pan
money
out. It's
to look worse.
I know, and that's like, I miss stuff like this. I wish we got more of it.
Just like Ian McKellen breaking down on the set of The Hobbit because he's just surrounded by a green screen and talking to no one.
The most depressing shit I've ever heard. I know. But it like there's another shot. There's a James Bond movie. I forget which one. I swear, like James Bond is fleeing in a car. There's meadow, and you can tell the tracking's happening from a helicopter, and you can see the grass flowing from like the blades of the helicopter. Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
Right. Yeah.
It's one of the early ones. It's Sean Connery, and it's like it's either like Spy Love Me, Goldfinger, maybe Goldfinger.
Yeah.
But it was really reminiscent of that, with the camera's like jittery. Shaky on a, but it doesn't look bad. It just looks kind of like
until you see the rear projected whatever they drive back then. That stuff is bad. And I'll say we got better with that. But everything else, like, you know, film on location.
But as they're crossing this Alp from the bird's eye angelic viewpoint, there's a reprise of Climb Every Mountain, which I will definitely give you this time. Makes this go hard as hell.
Oh
like that song is a fantastic one to end on. Not what I was expecting. I was expecting like the hills are alive.
Right.
But to end on Climb Every Mountain, I'm like, that's so fitting and nice and beautiful.
Yeah.
And then that ends the movie. So.
Yeah. So I mean, we've gushed about it a lot. So I think our thoughts on it are pretty clear. You know, do y'all like have anything, you know, like you'd like to, I guess, add to that?
It's a real banger. Like last week with Grease, like you don't have to. We have the soundtrack. No, see this movie.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. And honestly, like don't even listen to the soundtrack on its own, because so much that this movie does enhances the music to an astronomical level, like exponentially. To take the movie out of the music is tragic. I wouldn't do that, and it's the opposite of how I feel about Grease.
Yeah. No, and I do think it's funny too, like, you know, you talk about playing it at the German restaurant, you know, and it's always funny because they have the live accordion players, and like the joke they tell every time they play Edelweiss is, oh, it's the most famous German song that wasn't written in German.
I think it's written by, or like maybe Irving Berlin did this song specifically. Like I know the Austrians have no connection. Like Austrian Salzburg itself does not like this movie.
Yeah, I was reading about that too, and they were like, they have like tours that they do around the city now. They don't really care for that.
No, because they're like, we're the birthplace of Mozart.
Yeah.
Fuck Sound of Music.
But yeah, I guess, again, for me, I'm the only one that saw the movie growing up. 100% lives up to my memories of it. I think, again, having more context as an adult, you know, and sort of understanding, like, you know, like, again, as we've sort of seen special effects change over the years, you have more appreciation for how things like used to be done, you know, and just being overall like really impressed with that, and the music too.
Yeah. But, I'm very glad this movie is in that top 10 ranking of like highest grossing and whatnot, because like this movie needs to be timeless, or it just is, but it needs to be immortal, needs to be essential viewing for everybody. I mean, if you like movies, if you like musicals, but if you like film and you just, maybe I think directors should look at this and take notes of the decisions made and the dynamics that can be added, and how, you know, a set could be constructed, how to use cities. Like what's the word? A magnum opus, really. Yeah. It's a masterpiece. So I would recommend this to absolutely everybody. The casual layman, or the big, you know, guy with a lot of film interest looking for little techniques and whatnot. Like, everybody should watch this.
Yeah. As far as like elements that were most and least successful, do y'all have any, I guess, specific thoughts on that? Or
we went over a lot. Just that I think the third act, dealing with like the Anschluss, is really good. It's just there needs to be more stuff in it. The fact that you can like cut it out and you still have a full movie is like, it's kind of weird for me.
Yeah. No, agreed. And just like the connections with the Nazi subplot, and having that be more of those abrupt stops to the merriment and the amusement and the love, because all that, like, that's humanity, and there is no humanity in a fascist regime. And I would really like more exploration into that juxtaposition of it inserting itself and ruining the lives of everybody it touches.
Yeah. So I guess, again, this is another one I think we sort of answered. Did this movie deserve to make $2 billion adjusted for inflation?
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
More.
And I'm sure it did, like, with video
No, I
sales
want
and
more.
stuff, but, it 100% earned it.
I'm upset with myself. It was put back into theaters through like Fathom Events, and I
Yeah.
skipped it. I was just like, Sound of Music is goofy.
Right,
And I think
yeah.
that's a lot of people's impression of it, is like, oh, this girl's singing in the hills. I'm good.
They don't do a good job of, like, when they do that, like, 50th anniversary or whatever, like, to your point, it's usually just her in the mountains singing.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
It's like, dude, there's so much more to this movie.
Yeah.
There's puppets.
Hey, oh my God, dude, show the puppet show.
So I don't know if one of y'all want to take point on this, but the, I guess, real Von Trapp
Yeah,
family
I'll go
story.
for it.
Yeah.
So, the actual story, right, of the Von Trapp family, we have Witte von Trapp, who Witte is like it's a noble title for Austrians, right? Like nobility. The Austrian Empire has always been, like very feudal, right? So the Von Trapp came from this branch of nobility. During World War I, Witte von Trapp was the most successful World War I U-boat captain in Austria. He sank 11 trade ships, 2 warships, like incredibly distinguised.
I didn't even know that like Austria did anything with its navy.
I didn't either. So I learned that. It's cool. But in 1919, right, Austria has lost World War I. Their nobility is abolished. Right, so he does not just get income for his noble title or his land holdings at this point.
Yeah.
And then you couple that with the depression that followed in the German states, the German areas. When I say German, I mean like the people, not necessarily like the nation of Germany.
Yeah.
That's what the Nazis considered it too.
I'm not a Nazi. There's the depression of the 30s that really affected the German states, and these things impoverished the Von Trapps completely, right? And then he got a Kriegsmarine appointment, and then he refused it, which I'm like, fucking A. Like, that is even more badass than whatever we got with Christopher Plummer ripping up a flag. To be in poverty with 7 children and be like, fuck you, I'm not a Nazi.
Yeah.
Like, hell yeah. So Maria Von Trapp was a nurse, and she came to the Von Trapp family, but she acted as like a medical nurse, or not nurse. She was a nun who acted like a nurse for the Von Trapp children, specifically Maria Von Trapp, which was so confusing they changed the name for the movie. They didn't want to have 2 Marias.
Oh.
So the names of the children had been changed.
If you established that in the movie earlier, then I think that could have played into it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So they changed the name of the children and their ages just to make it flow better. But that's how Maria meets the Von Trapps. She's not a governess. She's not a nanny. And she gets married to Georg for more practical reasons. She says, quote, I really and truly was not in love in her memoir. But she does say, I liked him, but I didn't love him, in referencing Georg. However, I loved the children. So in a way, I really married the children. So that's pretty authentic.
Yeah.
But interesting that, like, no, let's make it a love story. And of course, that's Hollywood and whatnot, but that's not necessarily the case. They were married in 1927, not 1938 when the Auschwitz is happening. So before the real poverty had set in for the Von Trapps.
Yeah.
And this is my favorite, kind of most interesting tidbit, is that because they were so impoverished, they had to perform. They had to do musical performances.
Yeah.
And this is why Georg has such a resentment to, like, that's what comes through in the film, but it's real that he hated this because he was a noble and he had wealth and he was the most successful fucking captain in the World War I Navy for Austria, and he's a dancing monkey now. Like, that's really interesting, and I get it, right? So he has this resentment there. Eventually, right, with Auschwitz, which I guess we should explain. Auschwitz is the Austrian annexation by Nazi Germany. Basically, Hitler has come to power in Germany as the head of state. He's doing territorial expansion. He's upscaling the military. He's moved into the Rhineland. He has plans in the Sudetenland. Mussolini in Italy is moving into, like, Albania and Greece, North Africa. So World War II is coming.
Yeah.
And the Auschwitz is an element of that, where the Austrian state, which has a little border with Nazi Germany, Hitler argues that Austrians have always been Germans and they should be unified, and then together, right, they can reclaim what they lost in World War I and whatnot. So that is Auschwitz. In response to that, right, before the borders are closed to people who would leave the area, the Von Trapps do escape. It's a lot less romantic, right? Basically, they just get in their car, board a train to Italy. They go to Italy, and then they go to England. And then from England, they go on to America, and that's their escape. Like, it's not a big dramatic thing, but I appreciate for a movie, you did the right thing and made it dramatic. But that is the real Von Trapp story, which is fascinating in its own right. I still love the movie for what it is, but I think it's important to kind of still look back and kind of appreciate like what's the reality here? Like understand this. The movie's very romantic.
No, I want to be a stick in the mud. And any historical inaccuracy, I'm going to act like is a sin against cinema.
So, do you all have any sort of, I guess, final thoughts before we wrap things up for this episode? Or
I hope I will get pleasantly surprised again in the future with just a fucking masterpiece when I thought it would be just another musical. But I think this is going to be the movie that really blew me away the most out of like all the musicals we watch, which is quite a feat.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much the same. Just I was amazed at how good it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a 3-hour movie, so the plan was to break it into 2 days, and I stayed up past my bedtime to finish it after intermission. I was like, no, it needs to be a one shot.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's, again, I really hope that we haven't, like, peaked in terms of quality for what we're going to be watching for the rest of this season.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, right.
Probably not. We have to look at the other 3 top fucking musicals of all time, I guess.
What are you talking about? We watched Cats already.
Oh, word, yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, so with that, that is going to do it for today's episode of the Boyos Discuss. If you enjoyed it, we'd really appreciate it if you'd like the video and subscribe to the channel. We haven't really decided.
Moulin Rouge?
Yeah, we could
I'd be down.
Think of the Whimsy.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a while.
You get some insight into the Boyos decision-making practices, guys.
We can all drink absinthe and just watch the shit out of it.
No, I need to see Moulin Rouge. Who's the director? It's goddamn Great Gatsby man. Fucking.
Oh god.
He's got a weird ass name.
Oh god, that's gonna.
It's Elvis too, like the Elvis director.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's. We'll talk about that then. But
we'll edit and post.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, until next time.
And now back to The Sound of Music.
Oh, thank heaven! The Von Trapp family escaped.
Reverend Mother, I have sinned.
What is this sin, my child? Oh, well, no harm done.
I too have sinned, Mother.
Oh, my God! That's Rolf!
What the hell is wrong with you? Hey, I didn't start this war, but it's on.